All right. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. Happy Wednesday evening. First of all, welcome to another episode on the Walk and Power podcast. Um, this has these last few weeks have been amazing doing this and showing up live, which is something that, I made a commitment to do tonight for the first time. I'm showing up live on LinkedIn. So I'm hoping that everyone can see me. So if anyone is tuning in or tunes in from LinkedIn, please let me know if you can see me and hear me well. But it's super exciting. And as I was getting ready, sitting here getting ready for tonight's episode, I was thinking back to when I first started this podcast and how nervous I was, feeling like I wasn't sure how to do it, what to do. I was in my head, just thinking, and it took me a long time to start. And I started on audio only, just sitting in my little closet office, recording and talking to no one. But, it was a really good start. Then when I began thinking about transitioning to video, it took me quite some time to do that as well because again, I got in my head, I started thinking, how do I do this? I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it right. I don't know if I'm gonna look right. I gotta make sure my hair is done. All the things I was in my head. And then finally I started doing video. Then you do the video, you do the editing and all of the things that just make you more comfortable to put something out in the world. And then came a third pivot on this podcast was the pivot to do it live. And that took me a while because again, I got in my head. And so tonight we are talking about how to get unstuck in your leadership pivot. And a pivot is a pivot is a pivot, right? Like when we have to make a shift in our lives, there are a lot of things that can come along and just cause us to kind of get like stuck in the mud, unable to move. And I can definitely relate to that experience over my past years in leadership, but also in many other areas of my life, in motherhood, right? In relationships, in my relationship with myself, having to make pivots and finding myself stuck at times, not really understanding why I'm feeling stuck. Before we even dive in, can we just talk about the all of the amazing things that have been happening over the past month? It was recently announced that I am doing a TED Talk in just about a week and a half, and I have been practicing my butt off, y'all. Like when I tell you I have been practicing, I've had some watch parties at my house. I go outside and I practice in front of the trees and they become my audience. This has been a very transformational experience for me. It's been an experience that has been stretching me in ways that I never really imagined I would be stretched as a speaker. I've been speaking for some time now, and while I have really loved all of my speaking engagements, every opportunity I get to share my story, to inspire others, to spark transformation in a room, to shift energy in the room, to bring my energy into the room, I'm excited for the opportunity. However, this opportunity just feels so grand to me. I feel like the opportunity to do this TED Talk is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I do hope that I will get invited back to do a TED Talk somewhere else in the world. But because of how I feel about this experience, and it's something that I have been dreaming about for years. The preparation has been very intense, but I have worked with some of the most amazing coaches. So shout out to all of my coaches. But also shout out to all of the other TEDx Roxbury speakers who I am on this journey with. We have definitely supported each other. Some of us have gotten on calls to listen to one another and give each other feedback, but even in our time together, we're supporting each other. So it has been an amazing experience thus far. Then this week, I announced that I received the draft copy of my first book, Walk in Power. Why don't I have it here with me to show it to you? But it's in, it's currently in the edits. And I'm so excited about that because that was also a stretching experience. When I see that after writing this book and still being in the editing phase, I thought to myself, how do people write two, three, and four books a year? That is an experience, but it was a great experience that went through, and I look forward to writing other books. So I am so excited for when I get to share that book with you and share that book with the world. Thank you for you who are tuning in. Please let me know if you can hear me, if you hear me clearly. And so, some of the things I shared earlier was just talking about pivoting and all of the different pivots that we make in life. But tonight, we're going to focus on how to get unstuck in your leadership pivot, right? And often when we are leaders and we're thinking about pivoting, there are so many things that can cause us to need to pivot. So I'm just gonna pull out my notes because I want to be structured because I can be all over that place because I just love to talk. So there were so many things that can contribute to a need to pivot. So one of the things that, can contribute to a leader's need to pivot is feeling like, hey, I'm not achieving my goals. I've set some goals for myself and I don't feel like I'm on the right track to achieve those goals. And I may need to do something different, right? Like doing something different is the pivot. I may need to take a different approach to how I'm pursuing my goals. I may need to have a better understanding of these goals. And so feeling like I'm not really moving in the right direction, and that direction can be on that leadership journey, feeling like, hey, on this leadership journey, I don't feel like I'm climbing my leadership journey in the right direction. There's this thing called climbing the ladder in the wrong direction. And I can relate to climbing the ladder of leadership in the wrong direction for many years, right? Uh and what does that look like? What does that mean? Climbing the ladder in the wrong direction. Well, I know that as a leader, you may have a skill to lead, but just because you have a skill to lead doesn't mean you should necessarily be doing it in this place. So one thing that I learned is I had really big goals as a leader to really support individuals in their wellness and their transformations. And while I had all of these great opportunities to lead, I didn't feel like I was leading in the right places. And so it led to feelings of unfulfillment because I know I can do the job. I can lead anybody, right? I believe that I am an extremely skilled leader. And so if you give me a job, I can do it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's the job I'm supposed to be doing. These may not be the people I'm supposed to be leading, right? This may not be the area or the industry I'm supposed to be leading in. And those can lead to feelings of unfulfillment. And we're going to get more into that. Right. Another thing is, shifts in the market. So if you are a leader in a certain market and there are changes in the market, there are changes in demand, changes in expectations, changes in the organization, anything like that can cause a leader to need to pivot. Right. So if I'm pivoting, how do I pivot? How do I make a shift to align with these changes, to align with the direction that this market is moving in? If there's an increase in demand, what are the pivots I need to do to to reach or to I lost my train of thought. But what do I need to do to be able to supply the need, right? If there's an increase in demand, what changes do I need to hire? Do I need to do more training for my team, for myself, for the people around me? Do I need consultation? What are the pivots? Right? And so though, or if there's a decrease in demand for what you have to offer, what's the pivot you need to make there? Do you need to maybe change up the way you're offering what you're offering? Do you need to find a strategy to make it more attractive? And so that's what we call a market, a need for change, a need for pivot in the market, going with the market change. Because if you choose not to pivot and you say, hey, I'm going to stay the same while everything around you is changing, that is a setup for failure. And so, but when you don't know what to do or how to do it, then you'll find yourself feeling stuck. And guess what? As a leader, if you're stuck, how can you move your team? How can you motivate, encourage, and inspire the people around you if you're feeling stuck? Right? Next, we have organizational change. So when you're facing a change in an organization, this can be, someone who has left or a restructuring in the organization, or let's say the organization was taken over, like maybe there was a merging in the organization that may really change the way you do things, really change the way you operate, change even the way you lead. Maybe someone comes into the organization and says, yeah, I like what y'all are doing here, but I'm going to change it all up. And so now you have to change your approach to the work. And if you don't understand that person, understand this merge, understand the shift, it can also cause you to feel stuck, which will also, again, lead to your team feeling stuck. I remember there was a time I was working for an organization and I loved this organization. I felt like it was one of my dream jobs to be doing the work that I was doing there. But because of the change in the market, my executive director felt like there needed to be a change in our strategy and the way that we work. So we went from, which was just mind boggling for me, we went from addressing the needs of teen pregnancy because the money was drying up and the funding was drying up. Everything was changing about what we do and how we do it. And the funding we're relying on to do it with. So now it was, let's chase the money. And the idea was we will now focus on obesity in children. And I was like, when I got hired, I didn't get hired to focus on obesity in children. And can I do it? Absolutely. Can I lead a team to do it? Absolutely. But will I be fulfilled? And those feelings of unfulfillment can also leave you feeling stuck because now we have to learn all these new strategies, all these new trainings, and the majority of the team felt stuck because what we came here, what our heart was full for doing, is now being completely changed. And so that's when we are thinking about change in business. When it comes to business, those are the three things that can cause a leader to have to pivot. Again, not not achieving the goals that you've set for yourself, a change in the market, a change in the demand, a change in the way things are being done in that market, but also organizational change, change in the structure of the organization, change in leadership of the organization, so on and so forth. Another The other side of maybe needing to make a pivot could be personal, right? So if a leader is feeling like I need to make a pivot because I'm unfulfilled in this current role, which is something I kind of spoke about earlier. You can be in a role as a leader, feel great as a leader, but not necessarily be fulfilled in that role, fulfilled in that organization. And there could be many things that are contributing to feelings of unfulfillment. Some could be maybe you don't feel valued in that organization. Maybe you don't feel like you have a voice in that organization. Maybe you don't feel supported in that organization. Or it can also not be aligned with who you are authentically as a person, right? It may not necessarily aligned with your gift, aligned with your true purpose and passion and mission, right? It may be just a job that could really leave you feeling unfulfilled. The other reason, personal reason, could be you are seeking opportunities for growth and development that may not necessarily be here. And, a lack of opportunities for growth and development, especially for a lifelong learner like myself, I love opportunities to learn. I love opportunities to develop myself. If those type of opportunities are not available, that can make you feel stuck. Like, what am I doing? Right? I don't feel like I'm growing. I don't feel like I'm really moving upward, but I'm kind of just stuck in neutral and I'm not fulfilled. I want more. I need more, and it's not available here. But you can feel stuck in that situation because it's like, what do I do here? How do I figure this out? The other could be a desire for work life balance. If you are a leader in an organization where there was a ton of demand on your time and your energy, that could be another reason why you feel like I need to pivot. Because again, that leads to those feelings of unfulfillment, but also the inability to take care of yourself, the inability to fill your cup and make sure that your basic needs are met so that you can show up as your whole self at work. But if there are these great demands on your time, on your energy, you don't really have the support you need to get the job done, that could again be a reason that a leader says, I need to make a pivot. The last one I'm going to say in personal, and there may be many others. The last one I'll say in personal is a life changing event. Maybe there's a family member that you need to take care of. Maybe someone had a baby, you got married, you decide you want to move. Life events could also be a leader a reason that a leader chooses to pivot. And again, like I said, there are so many others. I mean, I would say one of the really big ones that I know that I've experienced and I've also witnessed what others have experienced through my work is working in toxic environments. That has been a huge reason for leaders to pivot. Some will say, well, it's the leader's job to take care of the toxicity, to manage the toxicity, to create a more warm and welcoming environment, a environment that's more conducive to the needs of the team. However, sometimes that can be challenging if you don't have the support to make that happen. And, I've definitely had that experience and I've seen others who've had that experience as well. So, when we have all of these different things going on and we're feeling stuck in the pivot, some of the things that contribute to those feelings are first and foremost, to me, this is the biggest one, is a lack of clarity. A lack of clarity on your values, a lack of clarity on your goals, a lack of clarity on your vision and what you truly want for yourself, right? And so without that clarity around what you want, it can really make you feel like you're stuck in a crossroad. You don't really know how to move forward because you're not even sure of what you're moving forward towards, right? So if you don't have the clarity of exactly what you want to feel, what you want to experience, what type of organization you want to work for, what salary do you want to make, how do you want to feel when you go to work every day? What's the culture you want to experience? What's the environment you want to experience? What is the industry you want to work in? If you don't have that clarity, it would be even harder to get unstuck in that pivot. And that clarity is, again, your values is number one. And knowing like where I am right now, are my values, am I honoring my values in this space? Are my values being honored in this space? But the question again is, do you know what your values are? Not knowing your values is also a reason why you may feel stuck. Having values really lays the foundation for decision making, and I think that that's one of the most important things to do when you are on your leadership journey is have clear and defined values, right? Next is fear. And fear is one of the great okay. I know I said lack of values, a lack of clarity was one of the greatest. But a lack of clarity, a lack of clarity on your values and your goals can also contribute to the fear because you're like, you don't really believe in yourself to really get unstuck because you're afraid that you're not going to be able to make the right decision. And that fear is, again, can come from not even knowing what the decision is you need to make because you don't even know where you're going or where you want to go, right? Or where you want to lead your team, where you want to lead the organization. And so if you're thinking about if the pivot is in regards to business, in regards to the organization, where do we want to lead the team? If you don't know where you want your team to go, if you don't know what the goals are you have for your team, if you're not clear about what the goals are, the end goals you have for your team are, that can evoke a lot of fear because you begin to feel like a failure as a leader if you're not sure of even what the direction you want to lead your team in. Right. But if you're also not clear on the direction you want to lead yourself as an individual in, that can also crush your sense of self esteem, crush your self confidence, and so on and so forth. Right. So that fear of failure can really keep you stuck from making any decision because you don't trust yourself. You don't trust yourself to make the right decision, and you're afraid that if you make the wrong decision, what the backlash is going to be. And so with that fear, you may stay in your comfort zone. Right? Like just you know what? I'll just do what I know. I just do what I'm comfortable with because I'm afraid of being humiliated. I'm afraid of what others may say or think of me if I don't make the right decision. And that right there will also keep you stuck. Right. And so that fear of failure that leads to staying in your comfort zone, that also contributes to the perfectionism that everything has to be right unless and if it's not right, I'm not a good leader. So it's what are you telling yourself about your pivot? What are the words you're using to describe how you make decisions, right? And the thing is, as leaders, is learning that we don't always have to be right. And being okay with asking questions, being okay with saying, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but together we can get it. How do we do that? How do you rely? How do you lean on your team? As a leader's job is to know how to utilize all of the talents around you, all of the gifts, all of the skills that are around you to achieve the goals. It's not solely based on what you have as a leader, what your skills are, what your knowledge is, what your wisdom is. The purpose of having a team is to bring all of this skill set together, to bring everyone's knowledge together and get everyone's input so that we can make decisions as a team, and you really guide that, right? Like you give the space for people to be able to share. But if you are feeling fearful, if you are staying in your comfort zone, if you are trying to be a perfectionist, then you're not trusting yourself and you're not trusting the people around you. And again, you're stuck and everyone else is stuck, right? Then there's also the imposter syndrome that comes up of if I can't figure this out, if I am feeling stuck, then I must not really be a leader. I must not really be qualified for this position. I don't have the answers. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. All of these things that come up just evokes even more fear and gets you even more stuck in the mud. It's like what's that? Sinking sand, right? Sinking sand, they tell you stop moving, you're going to go deeper, you're going to go deeper. So that is really what's happening as you are allowing all of these negative thoughts and all of this negative energy to hold space and keep you stuck right where you are, right? All of these things, the more you do this, the more you begin to doubt yourself, the more you begin to doubt your abilities to really lead your team in the right direction, but also to lead your life in the right direction. And you also start to feel like other people are doubting you. And I can speak from experience. I've been in that situation before, and I've also worked with leaders who have been in these situations who are feeling like, because I don't believe in myself, I don't think others are believing in me. And the reality is, they're just waiting on you. They're waiting on you to give some direction. They're waiting on you to create a space and opportunity for us to come together and make a decision. They're just waiting on you because, regardless of what, you are the leader. You are in charge. And as a leader, your subordinates, your employees, they really depend and rely on you to give them a sense of direction, even if it's you are organizing it in a way that is allowing them to really lead the direction, but they rely on you to even give them permission to do that, right? And so getting stuck and allowing fear to really cripple you and stay stuck will again will again keep you stuck right where you are and make that ability to pivot even more challenging. Lastly, one of the reasons why leaders may get stuck is a lack of resources, not having the resources available to help them take that next step. Maybe you do know where you want to go. Maybe you do know exactly where you want to take your team, but if you don't have the resources, if you work in an organization that says, "Oh, we don't have money for that. Oh, we can't have time for that." I mean, I have worked with so many organizations that say we really need this and our team really needs this, but we don't have money for that. We don't have training. We don't have money for training. We don't have money for coaching. We don't have money for anything. And understanding that in any organization, there should always be a line item for training your team, for developing your team, for making sure that your team, your leaders, whoever has everything they need to continue to drive the mission forward, to move the goals forward. And so sometimes leaders can get stuck and their hands are binded because the resources are not available, and that can lead to just feeling stuck and feeling like your hands are tied. And so let's move on to how do we get unstuck, right? We talked a lot about why leaders may pivot, right? And both either the person in there, and these can be pivots regarding the business or pivots, personal pivots, right? We talked about why leaders get stuck. And again, there are so many other things, but I try to be mindful of how much I throw out there. So I really am focusing on what I believe is the most important reasons that leaders are making pivots and why they're getting stuck in their pivot. So now I want to transition to talk about how do we get unstuck as leaders. One, I want to let you know that getting stuck as a leader is not a bad thing, right? It just tells you I need more information. It's an opportunity to really do a deeper dive into I'm feeling stuck, so I need something. And that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for self discovery. It's an opportunity to learn more about yourself and who you are as a leader. It's an opportunity to learn more about your team and what they have to offer, learn more about their skills, learn more about their strengths, but also an opportunity to learn where do we need to grow. So I believe in every experience, there is an opportunity, there is a gift, there is a blessing in everything. I don't think any of the experiences we have should be deemed as bad. I heard something the other day that said, never waste a good failure. Never let a good failure go to waste or something like that. And I thought that was very interesting. I don't use the word failure much. I really just like to use the word opportunity. I don't really believe there are failures. Anything that doesn't go right is an incredible opportunity to learn. And so never waste that. Never just look at it as, oh, it didn't go well, oh well, but what did I learn in this experience? What did I learn about myself? How did I grow? What did this opportunity or this experience teach me about myself? What did it teach me about my team members? About how they show up under pressure? How well does my team work together when there are challenges? Are we putting our heads together? Are we showing up and encouraging each other? Or are we snapping at each other and biting at each other and throwing each other under the bus? What are we learning about this experience that can really help us be even more prepared for when challenges arise in the future? So these are the things I want you to really think about. Is getting stuck is not a bad thing. It's an opportunity to gather more information. So the first thing I recommend that you do when you're feeling stuck is gain clarity. Gain clarity on your values, your goals, your vision for both the business and your life, because they are connected, right? The work that you do on a daily basis, the majority of our time each day is spent working. If you work in an office, if you work in an organization, we can often spend more time in these places than we do at home with our families or, in leisure time. And so having a job, having a leadership opportunity that allows you to feel full in both your job, in both your career and in your life is so important. And making sure that your values are being met, that your values are being honored in both areas. So, what are your values? Right? What are your priorities? What are the things that you need to feel good, to feel fulfilled, to feel joy, to feel happiness, to feel challenged? What do you need? Are those things present? Right? And then once you are clear about your values, about your goals, about your vision, it's time to take those actionable steps. It's time to take write down what are the things I need to do to achieve these goals and break them down, right? Like you can have really big goals, but you want to break those goal downs into bite sizes. And remember that every every time you achieve a small goal, it's a contributor to the whole, right? It's a contributor to the big goal. And so break your goals down, break those big goals down into small pieces that you can achieve and hit your milestones, and make sure that you're celebrating along the way. Every time you achieve one of those small goals that contribute to the big goal, celebrate yourself along the way, right? But you have to know what it is. What is that desired outcome? Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. Know what it is you're striving towards, because as you are working towards that, you can ask yourself with every step that you take, is this getting me closer to my goal? But if you have no idea what the end goal is, you're kind of just like blowing in the wind, kind of just all over the place, not really going in any direction, right? And so you want to make sure that all of the goals that you are setting are in alignment with the bigger picture, right? Next is challenge those limited beliefs. Challenge the things that you're telling yourself, that you're saying about yourself. Challenge the way you're speaking to your team about challenges. All of any negative self-talk, anything that you're saying about yourself in regards to what you're experiencing when you are feeling stuck, if it's, I don't have what it takes, I don't know what I'm doing, maybe I'm not cut out for this. The more you say those words, the more filthy your mind gets, right? We call that mind trash, right? And so really challenge those beliefs with the truth. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. If you weren't cut out for leadership, you would not be in a leadership role. You are in that role for a reason. You are in that role because you are qualified. You are in that role because you are worthy. And those are the things that you have to tell yourself. And then it's, all right, what am I learning about myself? Take some time to really reflect. Reflect about who you are, who you've been. Look at your history. Look at how you've grown and remind yourself of who you are and who you're becoming. How have you grown in your roles? How have you grown over the past few years? How can you use that information to even help you get unstuck? Because sometimes we forget there has been plenty of times that we have been stuck in our life before and we got out. And sometimes when you're in the mud, when you're feeling stuck, it's hard to like take a step back and look around and say, you know what? I've been stuck before. This is not my first time feeling stuck. It's not my first time feeling overwhelmed. What were the tools I used then to help me in that situation? How did I pull myself out? And once you are able to remember the tools you've used in the past, the strength you've used in the past, you can gather that wisdom to help you shift and pivot to where you want to be. So just keep that in mind. Lastly, seek support. So if you are in a situation and you feel like, hey, I don't think I have the skills I need right now for this particular situation, do you need training? Maybe there's some training that you need. Get some coaching. Ask questions. Look around you. Look at your team. Look at all the people that you are connected to that may actually be able to support you. Or through conversation, which I have had this happen so many times, just through conversation, you realize you had the answer all along, right? So I hope this was helpful for you. This was a great conversation. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed sharing with you. I love having these conversations because there's so many intricacies to being a leader. There's so many parts, there's so many joys, there's so many challenges. And I believe that as women in leadership, connecting with one another is how we really get ahead. It's how we really move forward. Coming together, sharing our wisdom, sharing our skills, supporting and encouraging one another on this journey is really how we continue to climb the ladder in the right direction. So I hope you enjoyed our time together this evening. I look forward to hearing your comments. If you liked what you heard today, please make sure you like, leave a comment, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you invite others to join and be a part of the conversation. I look forward to seeing all of you next week on Wednesday with a new topic. And until next time, walk in power.